time is now 5:41, and we will be starting our meeting. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The New Jersey Open Publics Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of the Act, the Perth Amboy Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, place thereof posted at the bulletin board in the Administrative Headquarters Building, mailing notices to the Home Tribune, El Diario, La Prensa, City Clerk, as well as all other persons requiring notification pursuant to the New Jersey Open Publics Meeting Law. Roll call, Mr. LaBrace.
Mr. Anderson.
Present.
Ms. Crawford.
Here.
Mr. George.
Present.
Mr. Marte. Ms. Melendez.
Present.
Ms. Odiella.
Present.
Mr. Quiles.
Present.
Vice President Gonzalez.
Present.
President Peralta.
Present.
We have a quorum.
We will now have our superintendent with his budget presentation.
Good evening, thank you. Can we move the, thank you. We'll let them do that first. I want to make sure the board can see that. The board had mentioned they were not able to see this in the past. If you don't have a good view, let me know so I could turn this one towards you as well. Can everyone see? Maybe you could just move that a little bit this way, sir, to your right. Oh, you want it over here?
No. Yeah, that way.
A little bit more? Can you go this way more, please? I'm sorry. How's that? All right, see. Okay.
Thank you.
So first and foremost, I want to make mention that we're going to have ample opportunities for individuals to be to discuss and share their ideas as it relates to the budget presentation. A lot of difficult decisions had to be made. That does not mean at any point in time that the people that unfortunately are going to be ripped in positions, really it's not people, because the people, majority of them are outstanding and they're welcome to reapply for positions in the future, even if it's not the position that they're in, and we will certainly give them the first look because we have a lot of wonderful staff members that we certainly want to come back perhaps in different positions. So from now until September, see what happens with money in the state, perhaps we get more funding, so forth and so on. But it's not even this year, next year. I am asking that all of our staff members please be mindful of reapplying for positions. The Director of Personnel is aware of that. Again, the majority of our staff members that are in good standing will certainly be given the first look to come back to our district because we do value them. This is a hard conversation that has to do with fiscal dollars, which we're going to explain. And then instead of everyone sort of hearing all the things that are out there as rumors, we have empirical data that you could substantiate by going on the Department of Education website and verifying the things that we're saying so that they're quantitatively and qualitatively verifiable. So we value the staff that's here. We value our programs. We recognize that there's going to be an absorption of many different positions on every single level, and we're going to get into that with responsibilities becoming more cumbersome for everyone. So this presentation will allow for the individuals to see very, very plainly where the district is. But I do want to mention this because it's important. This is not exclusive to Perth Amboy. This is something that is going on throughout this whole state and nation, and we're going to talk about that as well. But first and foremost, a baseline. The state approved our budget for 2024-2025. I mentioned that, the state approved and the board approved our budget fiscal year 2023-24. I'm going to mention this a few different times because this is important. The last bullet. It's been certified. zero audit findings in the fiscal year 2022-23, because we hear the same rumors that you hear. It doesn't make them true, just makes them rumors, that where's the money? Well, we've been speaking about this for a decade, and the fact that there used to be, I believe, Mr. LeBrace, correct me if I'm wrong, 34 findings, how many?
38.
38. There were 38 audit findings when we arrived to the district. That means that there were things that weren't being done that would allow for the audit findings to be 100% authenticated. Currently, there are zero audit findings. That is a baseline so that whoever is wondering where the money is or what has transpired over the 10 years, it has been certified that the audit findings no longer exist and that the district is in fiscal solvent position. Mr. LeBrace, is that accurate?
Yes, that is.
Okay. But you don't have to believe me. I'm going to prove it to you. We're going to prove it to you. Funding explanation. This is important. It's complicated, and I'm going to ask Mr. LeBrace to join me on this to make sure that we share this, because we deliberate even with the board about this, and it's not something that's easily understood, and it changes in reference to the statute. So funding explanation. Information on tax levies and local share, fair share, SFRA, is the School Funding Reform Act of 2008. Why this is important? We must adhere to this. We must follow it. More importantly, we need to understand it. So to have an adequate education in New Jersey, the SFRA says that the state should calculate how much a district needs to adequately educate its students, the adequacy of a budget. Local fair share, how much a district can provide through taxes, the local fair share. Equalization aid, the state of New Jersey will make up the rest via equalization aid. By the way, all this can be verified by going to the Department of Education, and so that you can see that these are accurate statements that are being made. The general formula looks like this: local fair share, equalization aid. That's what produces an adequate budget. Perth Amboy's local fair share comparison, pre-budget general fund tax levy. Mr. LeBrace, from here I'd like you to take that on and speak to that. The next two pieces. Perth Amboy local fair share comparison.
So each year when we receive our funding from the state of New Jersey, it tells us what the local fair share is. And that is, once they calculate what's needed for an adequate budget, they then calculate, and that number changes each year as well. It's based on a complex formula, but that number calculates what local taxpayers should be contributing towards that adequate budget. And then that number deducted from the adequate budget becomes the equalization aid that the state awards us. As you can see, we're at less than 50% of that local fair share this year.
So Perth Amboy local tax levy contribution is less than half of the state recommended amount. If we had collected our fair share, we would not be in the situation that we are in. And if you go back to 10 years that we've been together and having this conversation, this has been stated at every single board meeting for the past 10 years. The fact that we need to contribute our fair local state share of funding, contribution, tax levy, so that when the high school's here and we get to this moment in time, we would have enough money to not be in the situation that we're currently in. Is that not correct, Ms. LeBrace?
That's correct.
That is verifiable. So, fiscal facts. In addition to the reality of looming fiscal constraints, the following factors are also important to note. Perth Amboy School District has consistently experienced 11 years of zero increases in revenue from local tax levies. Local tax levy contributions are less than 50% of the state-determined local fair share, the calculated amount of adequate spending for a fair and adequate education. This brings the district to the imminent fiscal cliff year currently right now. And that is a term that is being used not just by, not here this evening, but it's being used nationally and statewide. So, with additional challenges of the fiscal cliff of what we just spoke about, the 11 years of zero increases, in addition to the challenges connected with increasing staff salaries for all staff, extra compensation affecting the budget dramatically. Example, a new contract with the AFT with a salary increase of 3.5 annually for 5 years and a stipend increase of 17.5 for staff. A new contract with PASA with a salary increase of 3.5 for 3 years. Additional 16% increase in health benefits for all staff. Statewide increases of 37% for transportation costs. Additional costs for the opening of the largest high school ever built by the New Jersey School Development Authority. Again, issues that we have been speaking about. So not having collected dollars for 11 years, zero increase in revenue of local school taxes, with those additional funding costs, there is no money to draw from. Next slide. Historically, the district has budget. Now, this is an interesting one. I'm going to go slow on this one. I'm going to bring Mr. LeBrace in here. This is a very transparent conversation that is very easily verifiable. So, we heard for years, surplus, 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 money, money, money. But he also said that we had 38 audit findings, meaning that the way the budget was, and I'm not speaking ill of what transpired prior to us getting here, I'm not going to go there, but the reality is that there was 38 audit findings. And the 38 audit findings spoke about surplus and dollars that were in the budget that were not in the right line item, which gave the perspective that there was funding which there was not in the budget, which we have spoken about for 10 years. And we've spoken to the state, to the county, to our auditors about this fact. It's not something that we are manufacturing. This is a empirical fact. So historically, the district budgeted, prior to our arrival, approximately $35 million to $50 million in the budget process where they cannot be used through the requisition process. What does that mean? That means, for example, year after year, approximately $10 to $15 million were budgeted for additional salaries and approximately $8 to $10 million in extra employee benefits. As a result, less funds were made available for curriculum and programs. So what does that mean? It means the following. The Board of Education for the past 10 years, to their credit, to this moment in time, required the administration to work with not only the business office, but collaboratively with the superintendent to speak about how we could improve the 38 audit findings. To address this issue, as stated again, numerous Board of Education meetings over the past decade, the administration and the Board of Ed has worked collaboratively to develop an effective budget. Now we're going to talk about that. An effective budget process where programs and curriculum drive the budget. That is in place. We have an effective budget with no audit findings. In other words, real dollars in real places. Mr. LeBrace, is that accurate, sir?
Yes, that is.
Is that substantiated by the auditors?
Yes.
Is that been approved by the state as being accurate?
Yes.
The development of an effective budget process is demonstrated with fidelity, facts, in annual audits. Verifiable. That's an independent agency that comes in and says that your books are in order. It's not us saying our books are in order. It's them saying the errors that used to be here no longer exist. Fiscal facts. When a budget is created and administered effectively, most of the funds would and should be utilized, leaving smaller budget surplus. An effective budget has been successfully accomplished and confirmed through the audit process. I keep saying this because that's why we arrived to this moment. It is not by happenstance. It's not by chance. It is clear, it is transparent. We've been talking about this for 10 years. We've arrived to exactly what we said we were going to arrive to. Complicated by other issues that are going on beyond Perth Amboy, which makes this matter more complicated. So, in 2022-23, the budget surplus decreased to $8.6 million. The estimated surplus from 2023-2024 budget is zero. Mr. LeBrace, please explain.
So in creating an effective budget, you create a budget where you earmark certain dollars for certain programs, for certain items, and when you create it that way, you end up actually spending that money, and it is used for the programs and what it was intended for.
An example, too, would be some of the things you see here. $39 million in capital improvement projects that were done. $6.3 million in programmatic enhancements. $4.5 million in increased health benefit cost. $15.4 million in unexpected facility projects, security enhancements, and emergency repairs. We just recently had one. In addition to that, one of the things that's important to note without going down the rabbit hole is this. What we purchase now costs what the item is that we're purchasing. That was not always the case. So if we buy something for $5, it costs us $5. We didn't then say in the budget it costs this or that, having a budget that's not
A budget that's not accurate, that
Correct.
Even using funds from different accounts than they were intended for.
correct. So this is why that we have a budget that has been passed, and it's an effective budget. Next slide. And it's important for us to understand this, to be able to understand how we arrived here. Comparisons to Middlesex County. Mr. LaBrace, I'd like you to talk about this a little bit because this is essential to understanding where we are in Middlesex County and in the state as it relates to dollars and no increase in taxes for schools for the last 10 years compared to other districts.
So when you're looking at this slide, you can see that throughout all of Middlesex County, the valuations column between 2018 and 2022 increased by 8.86%. Along with that, those same municipalities increased their school levies by 8.63%. So they basically, as their assessed values were increased and they increased the school tax levy, the school tax rate stayed consistent because the increase is very similar. In Perth Amboy's case, the assessed values did increase exactly the amount of the rest of Middlesex County. It increased by 5.26%, but the actual increase to the school tax levy remained constant, which you'll see on the next slide. It has the effect of actually lowering the tax rate for school taxes.
That's what I wanted you to speak about, so I want to just make sure that we're saying this clearly and precisely. The amount of school taxes that are being paid currently, more or less than was paid 10, 20 years ago.
I can't speak for 10 or 20 years ago, but from 5 years ago and 6 years ago, the tax rate is lower now for school tax than it was 5 or 6 years ago. People might question their taxes went up, but that's municipal taxes, that is county taxes. I even know in looking at the data that the library tax has increased by about 14%, but the school tax rate has decreased.
Meaning that what you paid 5 years for school taxes is?
You should be paying less now than you were paying 5 years ago for school tax.
So you're paying less for school taxes right now than 5 years ago?
That is correct.
Fact.
Tax rate, yes, fact.
School tax levy and tax rates. This is what you were alluding to. Notice the arrow. Those are numbers that for those, and I want individuals to understand this is very important. We hear a lot of rumors out there. They're the facts. Go look it up. Mr. LaBrace, please speak to that.
So that's the slide that I was referring to earlier. You can see that in 2018, the assessed values were at 3.2 billion, and the school tax levy was 26 million. So that made a tax rate of 0.82 basis points, 0.82%. In 2023, with the increase in the assessed valuations and basically the numerator of that number staying consistent, the percentage goes down. When that percentage gets multiplied by everyone's assessed value of their properties, if that was consistent over the last 5 years, which should be unless the house was sold, then their school tax rate, the money they're contributing to educate the children of Perth Amboy, has gone down.
Where do these numbers come from?
They come from the New Jersey Department of Community Affairs website. It publishes tax data for the entire state every year.
Those are not our numbers. Those are the numbers that we are given.
Those are not our numbers. Those numbers are public information. Anybody can look them
So
up.
we implore everyone to please go take a look at the facts instead of the myths. Those are the numbers that are generated from the reliable sources that fund our schools. The last sentence on the bottom, Ms. LaBrace, if we kept the 2008 school tax rate, please explain that. What does that mean?
So had the tax rate stayed consistent, which would mean that everyone is paying the same tax rate from 2018 forward, it would have been an additional $2.1 million this year in our budget.
And if we had that money, is it safe to say that we've been able to do a lot of different things, such as not have the RIFs that we have currently going on?
Yes, absolutely.
Please explain this. SDA former Abbott District School tax levy. Notice we have highlighted Perth Amboy and the number of 38.63%. Kindly explain that.
So this slide was put together because it compares all 31 SDA districts. They're currently called the SDA districts. They were originally called Abbott districts, then former Abbott districts, and now they are called SDA districts. They are basically based on similar socioeconomic indicators, and when talking about tax increases and local tax levies and the burden that local taxpayers are able to share, all these districts that are listed here are in a pretty similar economic indicator. That being said, they have, since 2018 to 2022, and 2022 is the last data that I found available, they have increased their local tax levy by 38.6%. That means that all those districts are contributing, on average, 38.63% more for the education of the students in those districts to their school tax levy.
So they've increased their taxes, and this is what I think is interesting. In addition to increasing taxes, they've also made cuts this year, have they not, many of them? More so than our district has. Is that not correct?
That is absolutely correct.
I want to make sure that I say that again. They have increased their taxes, yet they have larger cuts than we have, not having increased our taxes.
Yes.
I mentioned that because we've gone through great pains to ensure that we kept the integrity without having funding coming in, yet there are other districts that are comparable. I'm not calling them out, it's a fact. They've collected their due taxes, and yet they're making larger cuts to staff than this district is making. Revenues from all sources. Mr. LaBrace, would you be so kind as to speak to this? Especially the surplus piece, because I think there's a misnomer about surplus, which we spoke about for the last 10 years as being something that was not reflective and accurately denoted in the budget, hence the findings that we had with the auditor that we no longer have, meaning our dollars are where we say they belong. So speak about this, sir.
So there's quite a few lines that make up our revenues, but we could basically break them out into three main groups. One is our state aid, one is our local funding, and the other is our surplus. As you can see from this slide, our state aid, with including preschool, increased by $17.3 million.
To be clear, for when?
For next year.
Correct. So we presented that we received this money as an increase. However, that's not how it works out because,
and as you indicated in the previous slides, our surplus for this year, going into next year, we budgeted zero. So that number was $8,766,000. You can see at the end, the net revenue change is only an increase of about $1 million, but that also takes into consideration $5 million in capital reserve that we did not include in next year's budget. So the net change in state aid is really the difference between $17.2 million and $8.7 million, about $8.5 million. That's an increase in net aid that we received.
So $8 million, $8,766,000 more money that we have for next year, not 16 because of the surplus of the money that had to go to where you just explained.
That's correct.
That being said, though, and this is why I had mentioned earlier, it is very, very complicated even for us, and we're trying to make sure that we are very transparent and take the time to explain all the finite pieces here. The interesting thing about that, Mr. LaBrace, is that we also have increases in salaries, increases in health benefit costs, increases in taking on the high school, increases in supplies. So while we have $8 million tuition, while we have $8 million more, what does that mean? In fact, in reference to what we have left over that we have to encumber as new dollars going out.
With the additional $8 million and change in revenues, we had to make up for an increase of about $25 million in planned expenditures for next year, most of which were not in our control. We had no control over them.
I mentioned supplies, and I want to make sure I go there for the obvious reason, which is the principals are here. Any staff member that doesn't have supplies can go up to their principal. All the principals are here. Ask them in their buildings. By the way, the money that we procured from taking control of not having boxes and reams of things throughout the district, which we have spoken about many times, also helped to procure and save jobs. Current year versus next year comparison. Can you please delineate this?
So of our entire $277 million budget for next year, you can see the three lines that are highlighted pretty clearly. Our benefits increased $7.7 million. Our salaries increased $6.2 million, and tuitions increased $4.7 million. That totals about $19 million in increases that we are spending next year above what we spent this year that we're in.
So, although we got 16, which became 8, and this could be followed right on the DOE, from that 8, we still had an additional 19, so that 8's now...
Well, we had an additional 25.
Well, I was going to get there. Go ahead. You go there.
We had an additional 25, and then...
25 what?
$25 million.
Million,
I'm
correct.
sorry. $25 million in expenditures, and that was the arduous task of
What are
undertaking for the
expenditures?
budget.
When you say we have $25 million more in expenditures, with only $8 million more that we received from the state, with 0 tax increases, what does that mean?
Well, the $25 million is basically these three items: benefits, salaries, and tuitions.
That's in addition to what we have to just run the district the way that it is right now, with nothing else new.
Correct.
I want to, before I go to the next slide, I'm going to say this again. Because of what has transpired from a number of things which we just explained, that does not mean that we don't care about our staff. That does not mean that we don't appreciate our staff. That does not mean that we are not going to welcome back our staff members whenever those fiscal dollars change. So you say, how can that change? Tax increase would be one. That's not going to make up for all of the money that is needed, because that is cumulative over years, correct, Mr. LaBrace, that we have lost. So that would be one way that we could perhaps go back to having some of the things that we had. State revenue being increased by the state in reference to the dollars we get. That's another way that we could increase our budget, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
It's also fair to say that that doesn't mean that next year we're not going to have other budgeted items that we need to obtain. So we need to find ways of grabbing money, correct?
That's correct. And also, there's been increasing costs in preschool, yet preschool funding has decreased the last few years, and this year basically stayed pretty consistent. But preschool's very much underfunded by the state.
So those are the facts. Here are some more facts so that we can speak about the reality. Budget cuts are not only indicative of Perth Amboy Public Schools. News articles and stories denote that other districts are facing severe fiscal budgetary challenges as well. Mr. LaBrace outlined how many of our contemporary districts throughout the state of New Jersey have increased their tax dollars and contributed for the last 10 years to their taxes, and they still made cuts. For example, as mentioned earlier, the term fiscal cliff has been used by NJ ASBO, which is the New Jersey Association of School Business Officials, published January 8, 2024. They warned districts of the looming fiscal budgetary difficulties they will be facing. This fact, together with all the things we just mentioned, the underlying conditions, unexpected developments, has led the district to a point where severe budget reductions became necessary, like many other districts. But you don't have to believe me. Here are the facts. Those are different articles. Current New Jersey School District cuts 27 teachers and employees due to economic issues. I want to make note of something here. All of our employees are valuable. We had to make tough decisions. One of the decisions that we made was to ensure that we kept teachers within the district and in their positions because of the direct impact that they have in the classroom with educating our students. We recognize there are other impacts that our employees have with our students: social, emotional, clinical, safety. But in the classroom, there are no cuts of teachers. Yet, if you look at this, school district cuts 27 teachers and employees due to economic issues. East Brunswick and other places, look at what it says is 50 jobs amid a $8 million budget shortfall, yet they increase their taxes every year.
Yes.
Ridgewood, South Brunswick, all these brick. Tom's River, I think, what was there, like, the number was
368.
368. Everyone is facing this issue, and it's not easy for anyone. Layoffs throughout this state, even into California, even at our universities, our college universities. Faced with this, what we're going to, by the way, here are the sites that you could check these articles out and see that they came directly from there. And we'll have this on the website so that everyone can take a real good tight look at it, and I really hope that you do, instead of looking at the rumors, look at the facts. This is the hard part. This is the hard part. This is the sad part, but the reality of where we are is from what was just stated as the baseline. To balance the 2024-2025 budget, there was a reduction of 100 positions. Staff reductions require, so that we're clear, seniority-based selection, which is outlined in the collective bargaining agreement and state tenure laws. It's not arbitrary to the district or to the board. It is based upon this criteria, meaning that when we look at reduction in force, we're required to follow the law and the contract. Mr. LaBrace, is that accurate?
Yes.
That goes for all staff. That means we have to follow AFT, PASA. Those are the collective bargaining agreements. That's what we follow by law. The reduction in force resulted in the following, and I want to be very clear about this: 45 filled positions and 55 unfilled positions. That means even vacancies that we had, including in leadership, which we will get, are not being filled. What we did keep is the unfilled teaching positions. We didn't touch that. We have to fill those positions, again, for the classroom, and we have budgeted for that. Correct, Mr. LaBrace?
That's correct.
Reduction in force. Let's talk about this. Fact, 14.46 administrators. That is the largest, highest reduction that we took in this district. That work still has to be done. 4.42% of certified staff and non-certified staff. I want to make note of this again because the rumors are out there. Fact, the administrative cost of this district prior to this was below the allowable state regional limit by 25.5% as per NJDOE data. Perth Amboy has been said over and over again in rumors, your top-heavy administration. Well, there's the facts. We're below by 25.5%. In addition to that, we just cut 14.46%. What does that mean? The administrators are going to take on more work, as we've done in the past. I will say there was a position we had, and we've done it again a number of years ago, because I hear it out there, and so let's talk about the truth. Operations. Operations is a position that absorbed another position a number of years ago, which saved $200,000. We used to have a director of facilities. We no longer do. We gave that work to an individual in a position and saved 100 and how much, Mike, Mr. LaBrace? 70,000?
About 170, yes.
About 170 with benefits. So when we talk about we don't need the position, that's saying that we don't need our buildings to be clean, our children to be fed, and our buses to run. It's not reflective of anything that's being accurate. All of this is transparent and accurate. I implore everyone, take a look at the facts. 12 administrative positions eliminated. Here they are. The Director of Special Funded Programs, someone will have to pick that up, the business office. The Principal of PLP, someone will have to pick that up. 7 instructional leaders, that means all the observations, all the curriculum, all the work, individuals will have to pick that up. Supervisor of Physical Education, someone will have to pick that up. Assistant Director of Human Resources that we wanted to have to help the Human Resource Office. By the way, in a district this size, there's usually 2 to 3 people in that office, one person is doing it. Director of Mathematics, another position that has been eliminated, which totals a reduction in administrative force of 14.46%, again, after 25.5% below state average allowable cost. Vacancies that were eliminated and positions that were eliminated as it relates to certified and uncertified staff. This hurts a lot, but we are within our statutory obligation, and we were at a plentiful in the past. Nurses, secretaries, security, SAC, non-traditionals, administrators, total, positions eliminated. On the other side, again, it's important to note, no teaching positions were cut to ensure the continuity and integrity of education for our students. A matter of fact, this is very important to note, to save positions, paraprofessionals have been relocated into various assignments across the district. There were 23 paraprofessionals that could have lost their job. We went deeply into this and found other jobs for them. Similar to that in other buildings. The same thing we will do for any staff member that has been riffed. We will look to re-employ when we can, when the dollars are there. So, for example, while 23 paraprofessional positions in this example were eliminated, we successfully relocated all 23 paraprofessionals throughout the district. Did not lose a job. That concludes the budget presentation, but I will like to say that right here, Mr. LeBrace, what does it cost to, when we take possession of the building, which we have not done yet, we're looking forward to doing that soon. I also would like to take the opportunity to thank the SDA for all of their hard work in getting the building ready. I heard some things about the looming building not being, please. The high school's right there, it's gorgeous, it's going to be built. They are finishing up the building as we speak. They're doing a great job. The grand opening will be in August. So, Mr. LeBrace, what does it take to light that building monthly?
We're estimating about $100,000 a month.
Without a tax increase, where's that coming from?
It came from the slides that we saw. That was part of the cuts that we had to make.
We've spoken about this for 10 years. Check the videotapes. The board administration has spoken about the fact that we need to have done a better job, and the community needs to be aware that taxes need to be increased, or else there will be more cuts next year. Taxes have to be increased to supplant and support future revenue of the district and staffing so that we can go to the level that we need to be at. Is that correct, Mr. LeBrace?
Yes, that's correct.
That concludes my presentation to the board and to the public.
Thank you for that. Meeting open to the public for discussion of agenda items and non-agenda items. There will be one public participation session at this meeting. At this time, comments are invited on any matter. Public participation shall be governed by policy number 0167. Anyone wishing to address the board, please state your name, municipality of residence, and a group affiliation. Each statement made by a participant shall be limited to 3 minutes. No participant may speak more than once on the same topic until all others who wish to speak on that topic have been heard. All statements shall be directed to the presiding officer. No member of the public may address or question board members individually. Although the board encourages public participation, it reserves the right through its presiding officer to terminate remarks to and/or by any individual not keeping with the conduct of a proper and efficient meeting. The board discourages the public from speaking negatively about any employee, administrator, or student. Individuals can be held personally liable for defamatory or libelous statements made at public meeting. The board bears no responsibility for comments made by members of the public. Comments regarding employees, administrators, or students cannot be legally responded to by any member of the board or administration.
Motion to open public session.
I need a second.
Second.
My name is Josiah Santa Maria. I'm a district employee. I also am currently serving as the treasurer for the Perth Amboy Federation. I want to begin by sharing a story about my family. Many years before both of my parents went into teaching for the district, they worked for my uncle's ophthalmology practice here in town. My father was the office manager. My mother was a receptionist. Early on in the practice, they had a meeting with the accountant, and he informed my uncle and father that in order for the practice to continue, they would have to let 5 employees go. Obviously, this wasn't welcome news, but my father knew what he had to do, In that meeting, they came up with a list of 4 individuals they would let go. And the 5th person to be laid off was my mother. This was done with a great deal of protest from my uncle because, as my uncle told me years later, your father knew he wouldn't be able to look at his staff as the office manager, knowing that he kept his wife on the payroll. He knew that sacrifices had to be made for everyone, and that included firing his wife. I would like to say I'm seeing a glimmer of that same self-sacrificing leadership here, but instead it seems the district has sacrificed staff so a select few can cling on to their golden parachutes. It does not inspire loyalty to the district. It is not leadership. Monday was honestly one of the most emotionally draining days of my life. With every hour, I learned of another colleague who was let go, each with their own heartbreaking story of how this will affect their families. These individuals are not merely my colleagues, because that is far too impersonal. They are friends. Their day-to-day interactions with students, staff, and parents are the pulse of this district. It is truly a shame we are taking that away. I implore you to reconsider these measures and show the people of Perth Amboy that we take care of our own.
My name is Diane Gomez. I am the nurse at the AV Series Elementary School. I recently had emergency surgery, which I am still recovering from, but I am here tonight to address you all. We are not here to bash the district, but to bring light to our profession. I am one of the last remaining veteran nurses in this district, going back 21 years under Alice Mokar, and behind me are the faces of the dedicated nurses of Perth Amboy. This has been the most challenging year in my 21-year history. One of our nurses passed away, and others have been gone for whatever reasons, leaving 4 vacancies in our department that were never filled, only to find out that on Friday, 3 of our nurses were laid off, leaving 18 nurses in our district. So let's do the math. 18 nurses to care for over 10,000 students and 2,000 staff members. 18 to 10,000. That is an overwhelming task. The new high school will require 2 nurses' offices to care for the overwhelming amount of students, leaving 1 nurse per school in every school. A nurse wears many hats. We are secretaries, psychologists, social workers, counselors, advocates, translators, parents, teachers, and we are a safe haven. It was an overwhelming task for the 2 nurses that we had in every school, let alone 1. This is the first time that we've had to utilize agency nurses in our district, and the first time that we had to utilize our nursing supervisor, Eva Casaba, to take on a dual role as supervisor and nurse. We honor you, Eva, for your dedicated service to this district, to us, and to our profession. Dr. Roman, you cannot put a price tag on the safety and the health of our students and the mental health of your nurses. My final words are not only to the board, but to every single administrator in this district. When a nurse speaks, listen. When a nurse makes a judgment, support. And when a nurse needs help, act, for it may be your very lives that we are saving. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Kroback, and my home school is E.J. Patton. But on many occasions, like all the other nurses in the district, I have been pulled to cover other schools, leaving just 1 nurse in our school. So tonight I would like to talk to you about numbers, specifically numbers in nursing, and numbers I am confident that you have never heard prior to this night. To date, the recorded number of visits to school nurses in Infinite Campus for the 23-24 school year is 49,404 visits. This number does not include staff that has been seen and treated by nurses. It doesn't include staff and seen by sub-nurses that do not have access to Infinite Campus and have to write their logs in a book. And it also doesn't cover the number of students we screen with health screenings every year. E.G. Patton nurses alone including myself, we have seen 6,394 of those recorded visits. This averages out to 45 students a day, which equates to 7.5 students per hour. So mathematically speaking, that means every 8 minutes a student is seen by a school nurse. Now, maybe one student every 8 minutes doesn't seem like a lot, but unfortunately and realistically, that's not how it works. Students and staff do not show up in the nurse's office on a schedule. In 1975, the Federal Individuals with Disabilities Education Act brought children with disabilities into the public schools, many of them with complex health problems which demands daily nurse participation. And according to the CDC, in the United States, more than 40% of school-age children and adolescents have at least one chronic health condition, other physical or medical condition, as well as a behavior or learning problem. With that said, the National Association of School Nurses recommends that school nurses have a nurse-to-student ratio, a maximum of 750 students per nurse. That's in a general school population. One nurse to 225 students in the mainstream population. That's students with medication and special needs. And one nurse to 125 students in severely chronically ill or fragile population. Legally, medically fragile means having an acute or chronic health care problem that requires therapeutic intervention and skills. I had a little story I probably am going to go over, but I just want to say this. A couple of months ago, I had 3 students enter my office at the same time, and I was alone because my partner got pulled to another school. One student was bleeding profusely from her mouth because of an injury. Another student who has diabetes came in because of an extremely urgent low blood sugar, and another student has a history of cardiac problems.
I'm so sorry, but everyone has to have 3 minutes, and if you want, after everyone has spoken, then you can come back. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Judy Amorosa. I'm a registered nurse. I went to school for my Bachelor of Science degree, and I'm also a certified school nurse. I am a nurse at Flynn School, and I just want to say the nurse is the conduit for the community, in that the parents use us as a reference point to get assistance in the community. Families with no health insurance are referred by the nurse to places to apply for health insurance, such as the Puerto Rican Society, Central Jersey Medical Center, which used to be Jewish Renaissance. We make appointments for the students at the PAPS Health Clinic, for those, which is in Richardson School, for those who have no insurance or medical home. And some of us actually work at the clinic after hours, obviously for extra compensation, but this is also what we do. We suggest places for parents to take their sick or injured children. Nurses provide certificates. This year, thank you for giving us the reimbursement for our membership in the National Association of School Nurses. Because we have that, we are able to provide students who do not have vision insurance or do not have insurance at all. We are able, through this, to provide certificates for free eye exams and free glasses for anybody who needs it. And I make sure that I tell that to the staff of my school, and they send kids to me knowing that they are not covered. That's a big thing for us. We provide emotional support to the students who are hurt, afraid, anxious, just need to talk, or are stressed. Follow-up is done with the parents as needed. I actually have some laminated cards with grounding exercises that I hand out to the students and some staff if needed to help them through these anxious times, and just to help them to calm down, with the breathing and the looking around at different objects, just to help them. The nurse's office is a safe haven for the students. They're all comfortable with the nurses that they know and they've developed a rapport with. We also give assistance to the parents regarding their children's issues. We advocate for our students and their families. Students come to us when they are having personal or social issues During COVID, when the district was remote, I was at PLP, and I spoke with the student's mother regarding the absences in our conversation. She mentioned that her whole family was sick with COVID and that she had an infant with no diapers. I called around to different groups, associations, and I actually got a donation of diapers delivered to me at PLP, and I then went and took those diapers and put them on the porch of that person's house. This is what we do. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Celeste Cott, RN, BSN, and certified school nurse at the Samuel E. Scholl Middle School, and also a former student of the Perth Amboy Public School District. School nursing has evolved beyond a simple scraped knee and temperature checks. It has come to be often the main medical home for many of our students. We see injuries that happen in and outside of school hours, treat the students who are sick, make referrals for students with limited resources. The acuity of our students is not what it was a generation ago. With every day, more and more medically fragile students enter our schools. And as that acuity increases, so does our need for safe school nurse-to-student ratios. Safe nurse staffing is crucial in order to properly care, treat, and triage the acute and chronic health conditions of our students, sometimes even perform life-saving emergencies. In this district, aside from assessing head injuries and rolled ankles, we have students with asthma, life-threatening allergies, seizures, cardiac conditions, murmurs, arrhythmias, muscular dystrophy, ADHD, myasthenia gravis, cancer, organ failures, suspected substance use, depression even at the elementary level, and diabetes. According to National Association of School Nurses, also known as NASN, just one student with diabetes can take up to 4 hours daily for the nurse to care for. Some nurses are managing 2, 3, even 5 students with diabetes by themselves. Who is doing going to see the heavy traffic of students in the health office while one sole nurse is doing insulin calculations or is called to an emergency? And let's not forget mental health, which has gained more awareness in the last 5 years. There are times when the school nurse is the one that the student goes to when they need to talk. Imagine the responsibility of caring and treating all the nurses, all the conditions daily. My colleagues and I do it every day. Not too long ago, I had 2 students at the same time suffer an episode of syncope when I ran to the 3rd floor for one student and my partner ran to the other on the 1st floor. Just one nurse in the school cannot physically attend to 2 simultaneous emergencies, which we all know can happen without warning. I go into work every day knowing that their lives are my responsibility and it's too much weight for one lone nurse to bear. It is already a challenge managing the health office in schools of almost 1,000 students with 2 nurses. Some schools are scraping by with just 1. If we decrease our school nurse staffing on top of the vacancies we currently have already, then we are doing a disservice to our students by creating an unsafe environment that is unsustainable. These ladies standing here today are nothing short of amazing. They are my family, and to let any of them go will be a tragic loss for our schools, students, and district.
Good evening. My name is Debbie Patrizzo, RN, MSN, CSN at the William C. McGinnis Middle School and a former nurse at Raritan Bay Medical Center. I've been in the medical field here in Perth Amboy for over 42 years, and to me, I truly consider Perth Amboy to be my second home. As Ms. Cott just stated, school nursing has evolved into not only being the main medical home for our students, but for many of our employees as well. The complexity of the general population has intensified to encompass many diverse conditions and chronic illnesses that we as school nurses see and evaluate often. We are the first-line medical professionals who see an employee after an accident during the workday. Aside from treating the employee after the incident, we also assist them in completing all the paperwork, all the forms that are required, and we direct them to whom to call to report the accident. On any given day, we may be assessing an employee with, for instance, an elevated blood pressure, who we may be advising to have someone come and pick them up and take them home, or take them to the hospital, take them to the follow-up care, or you may be calling 911 for that employee. But before we take the blood pressure, we also instruct the employee to understand that if the blood pressure is elevated, that they need to be sent home or seek medical attention right away. After that, we then review the medications that they're on to make sure that they're doing them correctly, to make sure that they're taking them at the right time they're taking the right dose, and also what they're taking the medication with. Medication compliance is vital to keeping our employees healthy, and we are often their medication compliance confidant. We have had pregnant employees who have come to the office seeking medical attention, and depending on their complaint, this can entail a relatively quick visit, less than 15 minutes or less, or a more comprehensive visit where we're calling 911, and it takes more than 30 minutes as well. And please never forget, when you're treating a pregnant employee, it involves actually treating two individuals, and we never take that for granted. The employees in our buildings have a vast number of medical conditions, and we are always at heightened awareness when treating an employee because of this complexity of the conditions. This past year, between employee office visits and accident reports, the nurses of this district have had a combined total of over 1,000 visits. That's employees. That's not even the students that we serve. Combining the complex student population with the complexity of the school staff, with only one nurse per school, not only creates an unsafe environment, but an unfair environment to the population of the school district that we nurses respect and admire and care for. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Amelia Padillac. I am currently one of the nurses at Willans Elementary School. Today I stand before you because my heart is broken, as I am concerned about the health and well-being of the students. As a professional group of nurses, we have collectively cared for our school community for many years, ranging from 1 year to 35 years of service. As nurses, we take a holistic approach in serving our Perth Amboy school community, and we take pride in rendering care to all. Our jobs as school nurses are not simply applying Band-Aids to cuts. It consists of so much more. As nurses, we perform assessments, we treat, and we do follow-ups. There is continual coordination of care with parents and providers. We perform administrative duties, and we support our school community with emotional and social counseling when needed. We also maintain medical records, we administer medication to our students, and we perform annual screenings per New Jersey State. As nurses, we also train our staff members in EpiPen administration and Heimlich maneuver, and we develop plans for special needs students with medical conditions. As nurses of Perth Amboy, we play a vital role in emergency management. As you know, during the COVID pandemic, the nurses did contact tracing and data collection as we implemented strategies such as the development of protocols for the implementation of the isolation rooms in the schools and screening protocols for the COVID-19 symptoms, all of which was orchestrated by the nurses to ensure the safety of our students and the staff during this time when the guidelines of COVID-19 was constantly changing. Due to our nursing leadership and the diligence of the nurses, not one school in Perth Amboy had to be closed because of COVID-19. I have been part of the Perth Amboy nursing staff for almost 8 years consecutively, but a total of 10 years because I was previously employed by the district as a nurse in 2008, and in 2010, I was laid off. Unfortunately, last week, I was one of the nurses that received the letter saying that I wouldn't have a renewal of my contract for 2024-25 school year. If you know me, you know that I love being a school nurse and that I love the Perth Amboy community. I want the best for our students and for the Perth Amboy community. So with that, I am asking the board to see how vital the nurses' roles are.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Perth Amboy Board of Education, my name is Marie Benaziak, BSN, RN, Masters, other bachelors, former EMT. I've worked in emergency departments, inpatient acute psychiatric care units, a crisis interventionalist, and surgical and orthopedic nursing. The district has employed me since October 2022, and I'm the only district nurse assigned to the main campus high school, with nearly 2,000 students enrolled under my care. I am also one of many district staff who have received notification that my contract will not be renewed for the 24-25 school year, leaving a gaping hole in nursing care for our Perth Amboy community's children. I stand before you today not just as a voice, but as a representative of the school nursing profession, which is often misunderstood yet undeniably essential. As you deliberate potential cuts to nursing positions within our schools and leave existing nursing vacancies unfilled, I urge you to consider the risks and repercussions of this decision. I specifically call your attention to the school nurses' profound impact on our students and staff's health and safety, which your hunt for budget, efficiency, and economy places in grave jeopardy. Let me be clear. School nurses are not just another role in school communities that can be overlooked. We are frontline guardians, your first line of defense. We are the ones who ensure wellness, prevent illness, and intervene in health emergencies. Our role is unique and irreplaceable. Our responsibilities extend far beyond basic first aid. We assess and manage chronic conditions, screen newly enrolled students for vaccine compliance per state and federal guidelines, and document everything we do so that we may follow up and provide continuity of care. Perth Amboy school nurses, we are your students' advocates, liaisons, educators, navigators, interpreters and translators, listeners, health monitors that ensure every child in our schools has access to the care and support they deserve. The potential consequences of cutting nursing positions within our schools is not just about health and safety. It's about the very foundation of our educational system. As Governor Murphy recently stated, you cannot put a price tag on the health and well-being of our children. This is the most sacred investment we can make. Perth Amboy school nurses, we are not a cost to the district, but an investment in students' futures. I urge you to recognize the invaluable contributions that school nurses make every day and to prioritize the health and well-being of our school communities above all else. The concrete you lay today will be the one you will walk on for the rest of your lives and that the community will be forced to live with. On behalf of your community, I implore you to remain, at minimum, a 2-nurse per school district and give our children the care they need and deserve. Thank you for your time and consideration.
I'm back to see if I could speak for another minute.
Is there anyone else in the audience that wanted to speak before we touched? So we would have to wait for.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
It's okay. No worries. Thank you.
Good evening, Lynn Audette, Perth Amboy resident, 33-year veteran teacher, taxpayer and voter, and the district representative for the Perth Amboy Federation. I must first start by saying I don't care what's happening in other districts, I care what's happening here. And those articles were up there were articles from districts that lost money in state funding. We did not. Many nurses, security guards, secretaries, homeschool liaisons, and technology specialists received letters last Friday that they will no longer have a job on July 1st. These staff members are crucial to our students. The support that they give our students daily is immeasurable. Going down to a skeleton crew of these positions will negatively impact the operations of our schools and is going to hurt our students. I know that we did lose ESSER funding. And I did read that in states that reported data of how they utilize their ESSER funds, it was reported that 50% of their ESSER funds went to labor costs. This included hiring teachers, counselors, and reading and math specialists to help combat the learning loss of the students after the pandemic. In Perth Amboy, we got rid of our reading specialists, math specialists, and intervention program that helped our struggling learners. As far as the budget report, I heard a lot of blame of the residents not paying their taxes. I heard a lot of the AFT negotiating money for their staff that take care of your children. But what I really heard was poor planning and mismanagement and audits and overspending on the Taj Mahal High School, and now people are losing their jobs. As far as the efficiency part of the letter of staff being let go that they received, that is nothing more than a fancy way of saying that the remaining staff will now be expected to take on more work. This will undoubtedly lead to frustration and burnout, which will again cause more staff to leave the district, which is already hemorrhaging staff. And as far as the budget report with the 14% of the administrators, most of those were open positions already, or those people were given other positions. They did not lose their jobs. These people are losing jobs. We currently have limited supplies. Class trips and busing from the proms were canceled. Programs have been eliminated, and now it's on the agenda tonight to RIF essential staff. Many of these people are Perth Amboy residents. They're our neighbors, not their neighbors, not the six-figure people that live out of district, our neighbors losing their jobs. I have been saying for years at board meetings that bricks and big screen TVs won't make the new high school or this district a success. People are what matters. Having a full staff to work with our students is what will make this district thrive. And yet again, inanimate objects and flashy things that make the district look good are taking precedence over people. Morale has plummeted yet again district-wide, and your staff is concerned for their future. I am again making a plea this evening for you to all vote no to riffing our essential staff members who are being let go due to economy and efficiency. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lisa Maldonado, and my son Ethan is in 3rd grade. So I'm just here today because I want to know how the layoffs are going to affect him as a 3rd grader, his class size. How does it affect him as a child going to Perth Amboy School District? I also wanted to know why the teaching positions were eliminated for the special reading and math. He was seeing a specialist, a reading specialist at one point, and I don't believe he's seen one anymore, but I was told that they were eliminated. And I feel that, you know, if he needs extra help in reading or whatever, we should be able to provide that. Also, I wanted to know that, are there plans of improvement for the next school year? And what ways are students' academic success being supported? Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lisa Regalado. I was born and raised here in Perth Amboy, and my daughter is now a 3rd grader at Richardson. My question was, with the reduction of staff and the amount of teachers that will be let go, how is it going to affect the class sizes? And I also had a question about the school trips. Why were they canceled last minute? And after they were approved, and are the schools allowed to raise funds, and are they able to go somewhere free like the YMCA or something like that? Thank you.
Is there anyone, yes, it does.
Good evening. My name is Marines Colon, resident from Perth Amboy. My English is not very well, but I try to explain myself so you understand. You talk a lot of budget, money, business. I did not study administration. I studied nursing, and I understand what all the nurses say. But my big question is, you're talking about people that we need teachers. We need security here. We need nurses. We don't need a lot of administration here because they don't go to the classroom and give the teaching to the people, to the students. How about the money? Do you give raise to those people who do not live in this town? We need people who live in this town to work for this town for the students. I have 2 students here in the Perth Amboy High School. I go to the trip. Everywhere they go, I go. But here, I noted everything is money for the new high school, but not for the staff. We don't need administrators because you have assistant from the superintendent. You have assistant for somebody else. But how about we need the money and the people who work? How about the administration cannot go to the classroom and work with the students? Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay. Try. What else? I don't see reduction for the superintendent's office or reduction salary for the administration. I saw only cancellation, people, staff quitting. Another thing. When you're going to see administration give teaching class? With the salary of the superintendent, we can hire at least five teachers at 64, the average of New Jersey salary. So we need to reduce more the administration salary and need people who work with the students. Now we're going to have a big high school with a lot of kids, and you know how is this town with the gang and all that happening, but that thing is quiet, keeping quiet. So we need more security in this high school. And this town, we need people who work for the students, not for the big pocket. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience would like to come up? Dr. Pepe, do we have anyone remote?
We do have people in the remote, yes. Thank you.
And just to be clear, after we are done with remote, then if anyone else wanted to speak again on a topic or finish, then that would be your opportunity to come back up. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Pepe. I'm the IT director, and I will be moderating the remote public portion of our meeting tonight. For those of you who wish to speak, we are going to use the raise your hand feature in Microsoft Teams. For those of you who are calling in remotely, to raise your hand, you need to press *5 and then follow the system prompts to unmute. Remote participants, you will hear a beeping sound when your 3 minutes are up. Okay, so the participant with the last four numbers, 6687. Press *6 to unmute yourself. Once again, participant with the last four digits, 6687, press *6 to unmute yourself.
Good evening. My name is Sharon Huberman, and I reside in the city of Perth Amboy, New Jersey. I would like to express the appreciation I have for the presentation. However, for President Peralta, what would I really appreciate more is if that presentation regarding the discussion of the budget be uploaded somewhere on the website so that I would be able to review it. But on that note, what is important to notate this evening is what I've been hearing is a complete inequity towards the education of our children, and I'll tell you why. There was a lot of talk regarding the local fair share calculation, and I find that the information being provided to the Republic does not encompass the whole of what it means to be an SDA district as designated previously as an added district. In the local fair share calculation, you don't only look at the property value, property rate multiplier, but then you also include what's called an income rate multiplier. What I did not hear this evening is exactly what is our adequacy budget. I did not hear what is the equalization aid that has been provided throughout the years, and these are important factors. In addition, there are other aids that are supplemental to these types of budget, which include security, transportation, and from what I understand, nursing. So those are my questions. I would greatly appreciate more insight as to the presentation this evening. Thank you.
Okay, next up, I have the person whose phone number ends in 7442.
Hello, my name is Jacqueline Tapia. I live in Perth Amboy since the age of 12. I went to all the Perth Amboy schools from McGinley School to high school, and I was able to attend college thanks to all the great teachers. And as a first-time person that got the opportunity to go to college in my family, I wouldn't have been able to do it without the teachers. And now I have two children. I have a daughter who goes to high school and a son that goes to middle school. I'm very concerned because a lot of the quality has been lost. The teachers that are good at living the district because they don't have confidence in their boss. My daughter is concerned that all the issues that are going on in the school with the budget, good people being let go, people leaving for districts that are giving them better benefit. She's asking me if the education next year is going to be worse. And I'm going to ask you, Mr. Superintendent, because it looks like you're losing the confidence of the teachers, you're losing the confidence of the parents, and you're getting my daughter concerned. And I can only speak about my daughter, but if my daughter is concerned, I'm pretty sure there's other children out there who are concerned. How or what are you going to do to gain the confidence of the people that you're serving? Is your legacy going to be the new high school? Or is your legacy is going to be the confidence that the people that you're serving have for you? Please answer that for me.
I have no other hands up in the remote.
Thank you. We would like to give you an opportunity to come up and no one else needs to come up to the microphone.
Listen, if I had $1 for every time I've been interrupted or pulled someplace else, we would meet the budget, that's for sure. As I spoke before, I started telling you about a situation by myself, 3 students, 3 emergencies, 1 nurse. Thank God I didn't take lunch, which I usually don't. It could have been a very bad situation. This is not the first time that I've had a situation like this. I've had it in other schools. I have actually acquired the name of Bad Luck Betty in one of the schools that I've had to cover because I had to call in one day 911 twice for 2 life-threatening situations. I talked about a lot of numbers tonight. I don't know if you'll remember those numbers, but I do want to say, in the situation where I had 3 students with emergency problems, I was 1 nurse. I want to know how many people in this room would want to be that one person who had to call a parent and tell them that I had to decide which student had the most emergent situation and be that one person to call the parents and let them know who got the first chance of me. I don't know if I'd see any hands in this room of who would want to make that call to a parent. Just saying. Thank you.
Hi,
Hi, Judy Amorosa again. I just have a couple of things to say. First of all, I'm just concerned. I'm not a budget person. I'm not a fiscal person, but why haven't the taxes been raised to meet our needs in 11 years? That's, it's been stagnant for all this time, and that's one of the reasons why, Dr. Roman, you said that we are short. Okay, so I'm concerned about that. I think that the nurses are just starting to get our supplies that we ordered last June. Okay, just saying that us nurses, we have to make sure that we are able to work with what we have, no matter how little. But we're running out of Band-Aids, we're running out of Chloroseptic for sore throats, we're running out of everything. I think that one of the schools just finally got their order from last June. I just wanted to remind you that with less school nurses, only one school nurse per school, there won't be any nurses to go on class trips. And the nurses are not taking lunch because we don't have the time. We are just as I know teachers do. I know that the teachers, work extra, they stay later. Us nurses, I come in early, I come in an hour early, I stay late sometimes. I don't take lunch because there's no time, because we have to document everything that we have to do. So I just wanted to ask you to please somehow reconsider. Thank you.
I need a motion to close open session.
Motion to close open session.
Second.
Second.
Whereas pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12B, the Board of Education may exclude the public from that portion of a public meeting wherein the board discusses any of the matters set forth at NJSA 10:4-12B 1 through 9. Therefore, be it resolved that in accordance with the provisions of the Open Public Meetings Act, the Board of Education shall conduct a closed session pursuant to the provisions of NJSA 10:4-12B for the purpose of discussing the following matters: personnel, matters covered by the attorney-client privilege. It is anticipated that the length of time of this executive session will be approximately 60 to 90 minutes, and that action may be taken in public after executive session. I need a motion to enter executive session.
Move it.
Second. The time is now 7:03, and we will be entering executive session.
I just want to make one announcement. I just want to make note that Mr. Marte did join remotely at 5:50 for the record.
Okay. The time is now 8:57, and I need a motion to close executive session.
Move it.
Who said that? Sorry.
Crawford.
Oh, Ms. Crawford.
Second.
Second was mine.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Amendments and revisions to the agenda, Mr. LaBrace?
There are no revisions to the agenda, and there was an addendum which was placed for public to view.
An approval of, I need a motion for approval of minutes of regular meeting held on April 18th, 2024.
Move it.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Approval of bill list for April 18th, 2024, and the following payrolls of April 10th, 2024, April 15th of 2024, and April 30th of 2024. I need a motion.
Motion.
Moved by who? Ms. Aquiles. Second?
Second.
Mr. LaBrace, I'd like to just note that I'm going to be abstaining from check 1010. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Correspondence, State Department of Education, letter received from the Teachers' Pension and Annuity Fund approving the application for early service retirement for the following individuals with the following effective date. Letter received from the Public Employees Retirement System approving the application for deferred retirement for the following individuals with the following effective date. And reports from our board secretary, Mr. LaBrace.
Report of bid opening. The district opened one bid. It was for a broker of record for employee health benefits. We received 4 proposals. Acrosure LLC from Woodbridge, New Jersey, $148,500. Integrity Consulting Group, Monroe Township, New Jersey, $132,900. Brown and Brown, Lambertsville, New Jersey, $175,000. And Alamo Insurance Group, Inc., Secaucus, New Jersey, $222,000. Secretary monthly financial report for March 2024. The Treasurer's monthly financial report for March 2024. The Treasurer's report shows a beginning balance of $59,143,107.57. Cash receipts of $42,736,620.38. Cash disbursements of $52,167,306.60. And an ending cash balance for the month of March of $49,712,421.35. Acceptance of the reports of the Secretary and Treasurers as submitted and as being in agreement for the month of March 2024. Acceptance of certification from the Board Secretary that no major line item has been overexpended for the month of March 2024.
And now for the Board President's report. Our sincerest condolences to Maureen Bontempo, aunt, Lisa Walker, sister-in-law, from Perth Amboy High School, Daniel Verlisi, father, Anna Tazano's nephew, Jacqueline Leon Adler, aunt, E.J. Patton School, Lisa Burgos, father-in-law, J.J. Flynn School, Louise Myers, uncle, Scholl School, Geraldine Hernandez, grandfather, Carolyn Arlequin, uncle, McGinnis School, Luz Vega, father-in-law. So tonight it was stated that Friday was very stressful, that this week was very stressful. And I just want to say that we can all relate to that, because just as you guys are members of the community, so are we. I had friends, childhood friends, current friends on that list that were being rivs. So I also felt the pain. I understand the need. I too work with children. I too run a school. I understand the need on all angles. So it has been a very, very stressful weekend and week. Nonetheless, for all of us, we all live in this community. We all have friends and family members that work in our school district, and it was very hard. This decision is very hard, but unfortunately, it is where we are right now. These are challenging times, and we have to confront the reality that hard decisions had to be made while navigating the complexities of regulations and increased workload that everyone will feel. Because to be honest, we will all feel the workload. We must remain steadfast in our commitment to prioritizing teaching and the well-being of our students above all else. These decisions will demand many more conversations and will weigh a lot on all of us, to be quite frank. But they are the cards that we have been dealt with, like I stated earlier. And it is our responsibility to play with them and play them to the best of our abilities. These are all decisions that we have to work with. In the midst of chaos and uncertainty, let us not lose sight of the primary mission, which is to educate and nurture our students and the future generations. Dr. Roman had stated things earlier in this evening during the presentation that things can change, they may change. And so please, the positions may have been eliminated, but that doesn't mean that the person, the employee, cannot come back. We encourage them to come back if it comes to that. And the high school is a gift. It is a gift. It is something that all children of Perth Amboy will eventually see, will eventually be able to experience. And I know it may not seem that important because it may not touch you at this very moment, but at some point it will affect each and every one of us. And our children will be able to say, wow, I was a part of that. I saw that happen. I was able to experience that amazing building. And so one would like to not, focus on the good, but we have to focus on the good as well and see the greater good and the bigger picture. So with that being said, I don't know if anyone else has any further discussion before I move on. And that will conclude my report. We're going to be moving on to curriculum committee. I'm so sorry. I totally disregarded and skipped the superintendent's report.
Just one thing on behalf of the Board of Education I wanted to make mention of, which is the most important thing that's occurring this month and probably for many months before and after. Sunday, May 12th is Mother's Day. And to all the powerful mothers and loving mothers out there that raised all of us, happy Mother's Day.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to curriculum, Mr. George.
Yes, I'd like to move item number 1 on page 4 to item number 12 on page 5.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? For Finance Committee, I'd like to move items number 1 on page 6 through item number 12 on page 7.
Second.
Who seconded? Any discussion?
Yes, Madam President, with regard to number 2 on the final budget for 24-25, while we were in session, I took the liberty to look up a few facts. Home Depot, which anyone who's resident of Perth Amboy knows, has 2 massive warehouses on Elm Street. Home Depot's receipts last year were $52,277 million. That's billion with a B. At a previous meeting, I said maybe we should investigate whether or not some of these large corporations in Perth Amboy would be willing to, I don't want to say donate. I'm sure we have counsel here. There's all kinds of legal ramifications, and that's why we employ counsel. But we're opening a new high school. We have to furnish that high school. 2 of my daughters work in hospitals, have gone through major renovations. You go by the rooms and it says room donated by the Home Depot Corporation, little placard outside. Or you'll see room donated by Dr. So-and-so. We should investigate these possibilities because I did a little real quick finance. My figures may not be too accurate, but if we asked Home Depot for a $200,000, I don't want to say donation, maybe it's the wrong word, maybe even $10,000 a month to put a room in the high school, and some would say, well, you're commercializing your high school. You know what? We're in need of money. $52 billion is a source of money. Preferred Freezer over on Market Street, receipts $400 million last year, $400 million. ShopRite's receipts, $214,956,000. You might as well say $215 million. How about a room sponsored by ShopRite? This would certainly save jobs because if we're trying to furnish a new high school, again, people say let's not commercialize. Hospitals do it. Other major companies do it. I think if we have these sources of income, 214 million ShopRite gross receipts, Home Depot 52 billion, preferred freezer 400 million. And I did a little calculation. If Home Depot were to donate that money, it would constitute, let's see, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, million, 10 millions, 100 millions, 379 100 millions. You understand how small that is? 100 millions of their receipts. Maybe they can come up with a few, I don't want to say tens or 20 or $30,000 to furnish a room in the high school. Or preferred freezer, I did that math, and it works out to be tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000, 100,000s, millions. I think it's 4.5, 10 millions, very, very small number. So I think this is something that, since these major companies reside in Perth Amboy, and we have warehouses opening out on State Street, there's going to be some huge companies coming in there. Maybe we can answer these companies or local doctors, attorneys' offices. How would you like to sponsor a room in the high school? And again, I'm looking for sources of revenue. We're talking about budget. Just a thought, like I said, I'm sure there's all kinds of legal ramifications. Council would have to look into that. But having these major corporations in Perth Amboy housed here, again, I don't want to say ask for a donation, but maybe we could explore some type of means of obtaining revenue from these locations. I mentioned in a previous board meeting, the budget came up. I just figured I might mention it again. I know it has to be explored legally, so it's maybe something we can look at, and then our attorney can get back to us and say, we can't do it, or Home Depot's willing to sponsor the Home Depot STEM lab in the new Perth Amboy High School. Or Preferred Freezer is willing to sponsor the automated whatever lab in the new high school. Just a thought, Madam President. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for that. We actually do have an answer for that. Dr. Roman, can you
Perfect.
elaborate?
Twofold. First, I appreciate Mr. Anderson's perspective, and I think we've talked about this in the past. Our attorney's going to take a look at the specifications of exactly what was just stated today, policy procedures, and what we can and cannot solicit, strict guidelines. But some good news is that we are getting the high school actually furnished. The SDA, when the $300 million high school, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. LeBrace, entails all of those types of classroom necessities that we need. Correct? Furniture.
Yes.
Okay, so, but that being said, I think if there's a way for us to garnish some funds from outside agencies. We're certainly going to take a look at that, and our attorney has made it clear she's going to be giving us her perspective on that, and we'll have some answers in June, correct? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Any abstentions?
Madam President, I just want to record an abstention on number 2.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to our Personnel Committee, Madam Vice President.
Madam President, I would like to move items number 1 on page 8 through item number 11 on page 10.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, Madam President, number 2 on page 9, 2G.
2G.
I always like to recognize the people who put forth the greatest effort, especially those I had an opportunity to work with. I had a chance to work with Debbie Guerrera, and she was one of the driving forces that the Robert M. Willen School, and let me see if I can make sure I got my facts right. Yes, Robert M. Willen School this year exceeded the standards in language arts. I would say this year, the previous year's testing exceeded the standards in language arts with 62.5, and in mathematics met their standard with 54 as a score. And Debbie Guerrero is one of those teachers, so many teachers in Woolens, an excellent teacher leaving now, retiring. I want to wish her all the best, but she is for sure one of the driving forces that helped lead Woolens School to those very good numbers.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
Personnel, Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Ms. Crawford?
Yes.
Mr. George?
Yes.
Mr. Marte?
Yes.
Ms. Melendez?
Yes.
Ms. Oduyela?
Yes.
Mr. Quiles?
Yes.
Vice President Gonzalez?
Yes.
President Peralta?
Yes.
Motion is approved.
Moving on to old business. Second reading of the following policy and regulation, 8130, school organization. I need a motion to move it.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstention? Now in new business, I need a motion for approval to remove student number ID ending in 818, 423, and 800 from schools and placed at an alternative educational setting as recommended by the Student Disciplinary Committee at the hearing conducted on April 25th of 2024. I need a second.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? No other new business? Well, I'd just like to piggyback off of Dr. Roman and say Happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers and all of the women in our district. Some of us may not have children, but we do have plenty of them on a daily basis in our schools. So happy Mother's Day. No? Okay. So I need a motion to adjourn our meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? The time is now 9:16 and our meeting has adjourned.